So that's the layout of the land. So who are these people? So Charles and Eliza had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Chucks. That's why we look for secondary clues. I don't know which Charles is coming through until they define themselves. So again, if I don't bring this up, they normally do it for me very angrily. So the son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. Like, that's a pretty big deal for us.
You said Charles Pitt. Yeah, I recognize that name.
So
yeah.
Charles Pinckney and Charles Coatsworth Pinckney.
Yeah.
So Charles Coatsworth was the son. Charles Pinckney was the nephew.
Okay.
And then
that's the nephew's name. I know more so.
Yeah. Well, you also have Charles Coatsworth's father, Charles Pinckney. So there's 3 of them.
Good.
So again,
yeah,
it is. So if you don't know like the years and what they look like, it can be like it took a lot of research to figure out like which freaking Chuck was here when I was getting stuff from a Charles Pinckney. But anyway, I hate politics. We're gonna move on to Eliza. She has a much cooler story. So Eliza married Charles at a young age, according to today's standards, not the colonial times that they came from. So when you're going to ask her how old she was, don't expect numbers like 12 and 14 like you think of colonial times. Think of today's standards. The reason why is because Charles, her husband, was over double her age when they married. So it is a number that we get often between the 2 of them. You can also ask the length of their marriage. We get that quite often. Now, Eliza married Charles because her father was over in England and he thought he was dying. So Eliza didn't believe he was dying. He's trying to bring all his kids home one last time. She stayed put and got married. It's 1744. You know you're not getting married in that year for a green card because we're not a country yet. So she did marry him out of love, and we're not going to poke the bear here. Again, this is a prominent English woman where we're not going to piss her off. She's like, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I'm sure you do, exactly. And when you said that, I'm like, oh, this shit actually worked out really well. But anyway, she was right. Dad didn't die right away. Instead, he started sending her gifts from England to where we're standing. One of those gifts happens to be the plant seeds of indigo. So you guys may have heard indigo at one of your other plantation tours. So that's why when you said blonde hair, blue eyes, and I have the word blue, that's bleed over. So we may have gotten Pinckney stuff over by Big John's, and we may get Big John stuff over here. Even though they're from different centuries, we still see a lot of like crossover type of terms. So it's always a matter of like, what's the timestamp? Where were we when we heard this specific phrase? So anyway, but when Eliza got her seeds from her father, she didn't know what to do with them. She had to learn from her slaves how to keep it cultivated. It's not warm here all the time. You guys know that. So when she learned how to make the dye from them, she moved it to another like cash crop plantation by the Stoner River, got a hold of her dad and said, the rice plantations are going downhill. We're going to make a killing with the indigo. And we now have an international businesswoman during colonial times, before we're even a country. So that's the boring business shit. Let's get into the weird stuff, because that's why you're here. So we're going to focus on a couple of sets of questions. So first off, the mansion's not here. We can always ask what happened to it, and then if we get the what, we normally get the when. So we'll normally get dates out of that. So kind of keep that in mind. The other thing that we're going to focus on is Eliza's death. So with only 2 of us having spirit boxes, I'm not going to throw out every single question at you, but the death is pretty prominent. She's usually pretty open about talking about it, how old she was, what she died from, where she's buried, what president was a pallbearer at her funeral. So those are 4 major questions. Of course, we can always go after the mansion questions as well, but you're going to be the one listening and just kind of letting us know what you hear. I'm going to check my word list, and this is definitely a high EMF space. I got lay and stomach really close to each other. That's like lay, stomach, and war. So that's an interesting piece. I'll explain if we get more out of it. It's not enough for me to say, yeah, we're good. Like, that's a definitive thing, but I'm definitely going to explain it if we get more. And what the hell soccer's got to do with, 1700s, I have no idea. It's funny, because we normally get the word commissioner. Now I got to look up to see if one of those Charleses was a commissioner. Most of them had many titles because there weren't many politicians back then, so they held different offices. So every once in a while we'll get something like this where I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to look it up. It's a good thing while we keep the list wide open. As far as the EMF in this location, I guess let me explain this before we really get started with it. Grab it. Man, this thing's like going off. It's giving us a lot of terms. So this is going to measure, obviously, the electricity in the air, right? So if you were to put this behind your TV, it would read about 40 to 60 milligauss. Okay. Put this next to a running microwave, 150 to 170. So that kind of gives you an idea of how those readings look like. The average spike for this location is 18 to 22, which is astronomical for most other spaces. So that's really high, and that's something I see regularly. The highest I've ever seen this device go has been here, ever, in all of my investigations, 214.
Wow.
That's like putting your head inside the microwave. So again, we left. Again,
Yeah.
very quickly. That
Yeah.
team didn't even get to investigate because I was showing the person how to use it a little bit further because it had that REM pod built into it. There's a 3.3, and I also escalate all of the numbers so that way I don't have a whole notebook full of numbers. So now my new baseline is going to be 3.3, and I'll be writing down whatever other numbers actually pop up above that and keep going up.
Okay.
Have you seen anything crazy on yours yet?
Nope.
And that's the only camera I have, too, by the way, that's I would call a real-time camera.
Okay.
Because it's big enough to see in real time. The other two are pretty small.
Okay.
So the thermal is the size of a phone, because that's exactly what it is. But I use a FLIR attachment. And then the other one is a GoPro camera altered to see infrared lighting.
Okay.
So, but that is the only real-time camera that I actually use. So, have you heard anything else that is of relevance that I need to know about?
I heard there was a DJ said well, and almost like somebody was ready to explain something.
Like, well,
Kind of getting into
Like
wanting to
fell in a
explain
well?
something. I just missed. There was something that just come through. It was almost like a let me explain or something.
okay. Again, let it happen. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing pretty well. But most of what you've given me so far is pretty vague, except for that blonde hair blue eye thing. So that's where I was like, oh,
That's very big.
yeah. But even still, there's specific
So what
colors.
kind of direct? So should I just start asking direct question?
How about it? Just no yes, no questions. I kind of give you those
Like
depth
how
questions.
did you not yes or no? Like
So, Eliza,
so, like you said, who was that? Who was your pallbearer?
yeah, who was the president that was
Who
at
was
your
the president?
funeral? You know, Eliza, what happened to your beautiful house that was here? You know what I mean? Those kind of things. And some people just focus on it. Because again, when I'm using 6 to 7 different communication devices, we don't know where the answers are going to go. So that could be the audio of the camera, my voice recorder, or the 5 to 7 different spirit boxes that I use. Because again, I use various styles of them. This is just my favorite because it records. And you guys get the recording on back.
What happened to the house here?
Eliza, this is Trey. He's going to try to learn some of the things that happened to your home here. So let's start off with what happened to the beautiful mansion that used to stand here. Can you give us an answer to that? Pretty low. 3.5. I'm going to move around a bit just to kind of see what I can get out of it. If you guys want to hang back here, that's fine, because I know I told you the more still you are, the better. Just keep in mind, if anybody comes up through that gateway, that you're going to lower your camera.
Yep.
So, kind of get to the gist of that. I just want to see if I'm going to get any readings out of this.
What happened to your phone?
Should be able to see me pretty clearly with the lighting we have in here. Did get it up to a 16.
We keep it in that corner.
What's weird is that some of these motion lights might actually be to my bathroom. Like that one keeps going on and off.
I've noticed that
And
one.
your shadow is just overlapping.
So we move forward.
No, you're okay.
That was kind of crazy.
What'd you get?
There was family.
That's common
Well, the
here.
first thing was look to Jesus, then there was family, and then running for the door, which was the eagle sign. What happened to the house?
I'm not telling you yet.
Well, I
nice
said
track.
running for the door had been a fire. Was it a fire?
It was a fire. But you're using context clues at this point. I want direct answers. But again, I think these motion lights in here might
I was
actually
going to
work.
say, there's something on that wall.
It's your shadow.
That's
It'll pick it up because it's an absence of light.
Gotcha.
So go ahead and point it directly at the ground where my shadow is, and it should pick me up pretty good.
Yep.
See how it picks it up because it's an absence of light? I found it very interesting when I saw that for the first time. I'm like, what the hell's laying on the ground?
Well, it was like someone was dancing up there, and I was like, no.
Can you make this first light go brighter? And you want to go over there and maybe make that light go off for us? All you gotta do is walk in front of it. See how that one keeps going off?
Uh-huh.
Eliza, I'm talking about the one on the wall over here. Can you make that first light go off for us? Just simply walk in front of it for us. And we don't have to come near us. We'll stand still. Eliza, looks like the light is on in the middle. Can you make the one closer to us go off? Turn it on. It works off of your motion. All you gotta do is move around in front of it, and it'll turn on. I want to know why that one keeps going on and off.
Uh-huh.
Are they controlling that one instead?
Seems a little too much of an interval. It's literally turning on and off.
Is it a motion?
It's all motion, all of them. So there's one on that post over there too.
What are you talking about? Walking over, walking over.
What I call real-time moments.
When you were asking to step in front of it, it was walking away.
All right, Eliza, it's turned off now, so just go anywhere near that light, and it should be able to turn on with your motion. I think the one on the post over here is not turning on because it's probably not getting enough sun, like this one. So I have those kind of lights in my yard. So one of them is always brighter than the other one because it captures more sun during the daytime. So that one's probably not on anymore because it didn't get enough sun rays to collect the energy for it. But this could actually work to my benefit. I was a little worried about it. This is a space I come to every night before I meet with you guys because I was looking to retire the space. One of those lights just turned on. Like in front of that car over there, I thought. See the one to the right of it? It can't be from my shadow going that far. Anything else coming up on yours? All right, so we're gonna call it at this location. The highest I got this guy to go was 16. So again, I told you it was gonna be between 18 to 22 is is about an average spike. So 16 is not bad. It's definitely much higher than most other locations. See if anything else come up on my word list. Nope, nothing relevant. But again, it sounds like we were getting a little bit of, or during the 1700s, dueling was illegal. So they had to find their hiding spot. This was one of those hiding spots.
1-800-1800s.
Well, what are we talking about is 1700s. So 1786 is the year that we're going to. But we all tell the same story down here. But I tell it differently because obviously we're ghost hunting. It's not a campfire marshmallow sit around kind of thing. So let's get into it. There's a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She's an attorney, helping her out with all of this cash. The attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after her money. So he tells Amanda to get rid of the doctor. He comes to Charleston to prove that he's not after her money. He's going to start his new practice down here. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. So it wasn't a very good start. So somebody was walking by and seeing what was about to happen because he knew the coachman. This gentleman's name was Ralph Isaacs. I stopped on Ralph because he has the same initials as where the doctor came from. We were getting the letters RI from DJs all the time on the spirit boxes, so I have a digital Ouija board now. It's a new device called the Envoy, and we were waiting to see if we were going to get the letters RI on that. It happened just the other night on cue.
Wow.
I mean, as soon as I was explaining this part to that group, it came up on that device. Like, I was like, I can't make this shit up, guys. I wish I could. But that does belong to two different characters of the story, so we always need a secondary clue to know who it belongs to, either Dr. Ladd or Ralph Isaacs. So, anyway, back to Ralph. He tells the doctor, dude, you don't want to stay here. This guy's going to try to kill you. Come with me. We're going to go to 59 Church Street where you can rent a room from some friends of mine and you'll be safe. He took him up on the offer. They became friends. The longer the doctor stays here, the more money he's making. He's proving his point. He's not after Amanda's money. So, he becomes known as the Whistling Doctor because Amanda's coming down and they're going to get married soon. What I am going to tell you is that every haunted city you guys visit is going to have a cliched whistling ghost. We all have one. So we're going to get into the history of that later on. But anyway, Ralph and the doctor go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. He gets better seats. That's just the way the hierarchy is here in Charleston. So they go see Richard III one night from Shakespeare, and they're arguing on the way home about the new actress that was here. Dr. Ladd thought she was great. Ralph didn't. So they start arguing, but Ralph then starts insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island. It gets very ugly. They went their separate ways. Ralph then goes to his friends at the newspaper and puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. Kind of a you're a disgrace to society kind of mentality. Dr. Ladd saw the newspaper ad and rebutted with, let's go to Dueler's Alley. We're going to settle this shit and somebody's going to die. So they came down, they took their 10 paces, they turned, the doctor pointed his gun in the air and he shot his one shot. He didn't want to kill his friend. You know as well as I do that that's common for a duel. However, Ralph has his one bullet and he puts it in the kneecap of the doctor. The doctor didn't die. His friends picked him up off the ground here, took him home to 59 Church Street, and he dies 10 days later. He also refused medical treatment. I point that out because gunshot wounds in 1786 were a lot different than they are now. He's a doctor. He probably tried to bleed out the bullet wound himself from lead poisoning. So, again, they say as you walk through the alley, you can hear the whistles from the doctor. That's what every ghost tour will tell you. The cool thing is, you're recording video with audio. I also have my voice recorder. You don't need to directly listen in real time. It's going to be there on one of these two things if it's going to be there. However, we have caught the word whistle on this guy before, and we've had whistling parts of songs while we're here. So Guns N' Roses' Patience, the Moves Like Jagger song, like those all have whistling parts in them. They come up here all the time. So does the song Brown Eyed Girl, because it's part of the doctor's name, Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. We get it all the time. So, the other piece they say you can hear down here are the gunshots from all the different duels. I don't have any proof of that. I've never had anything show up on audio where somebody said that they've heard gunshots on any of the pieces I've ever given them in 4 years that I've been coming here. So I just don't have any proof. So, there's a couple of things about this alley that, first off, I always throw a whistle down here. If you're going to try this on your own, just keep in mind, like when you walk through here with a voice recorder, everybody throws a whistle that knows the story, and all the locals know it. So if they're walking up and down Cumberland or Queen, they throw a whistle. I pointed out where my garage was at, so you know I throw a whistle every single night when I come down here. So again, it's just one of those things you do, especially since I got kicked out of here. So let's talk about that, because that's the fun part of why we're here. it actually explains why we're going to our next space. So that thing seems really loud. Can you hear me and
Yeah,
Matt
yeah.
at the same time?
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Most people, like, when I can hear it, like, they're not hearing me.
He has to deal with kids and listening to.
Oh yeah, multitasking.
Fair enough. I guess with mine grown, I become accustomed to, like, make everything quiet. You know what I mean? If the wife's talking to me while I'm playing a game or watching TV, I'm like, why are you talking? You know I gotta focus. Like, so there's no kids here anymore. But at any rate, so here's why I got kicked out. The alley didn't go all the way through this way. There was a wall halfway between us and Cumberland Street. The reason why is because before it was Dueler's Alley, it was called Cow Alley. This is where they kept the livestock for the city of Charleston. So that means the bricks on that side are older. They're sun-dried bricks from slave children. So that means there's a full handprint from a slave child down at the end of this alley, along with some fingerprint swipes.
Would that have been from the Boone Hall plantation because they were known for the bricks?
So there's like fingerprint ones there. It almost looks like 3 fingers, like in one of the bricks on the wall over there. This one is a full handprint in a brick on the ground. So I would always take my groups up there because I'm sure you guys figured out I'm all about history.
Yeah.
So here's the funny part. November 26th of 2020, an exact date, yes. I took my entire group through the end of this alley, and I treat that brick the same way I do a grave. That kid's not there. We're not going to get anything.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to try to get something out of it. So my entire group of 10 is huddled around this one brick that specific night. I'm trying to shoo them along because nothing's going to happen, and it's outside the kitchen window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. I'm just trying to be respectful. I didn't realize I was out of bounds. I'm not allowed down there as far as taking tours. Like, it's because it's residential.
Yeah.
So the new owner came out screaming. My daughter thought it was great because Dad's getting yelled at. We moved on. The next day was Thanksgiving. I don't work Thanksgiving. Why? I worked in retail management for 20 years, mainly for Walmart. You guys get it. I'm never working Thanksgiving again.
Yeah.
So the next day I called my partner up in the morning and I told him up. And that was my partner at the time. He's not with me anymore. I kicked him out. Get out. Anyway, I told him what happened. He's like, dude, you can't go all the way down the alley. You can only go down halfway. That's as far as we're allowed to go. He's like, so either go down halfway or reroute the group. So I decided I'm going to reroute the group so that way I don't get in trouble anymore. But I told my group that night, because it's November 28th, I want you to remember that date, that I don't believe in the next story because I've never had anything happen there, and it's pirates. I'm a vampire guy, not a pirates guy. So with that being said, I didn't tell them who we were going to be investigating. Again, there's always a person, because again, we're ghost hunting. Somebody heard the name Anne on a spirit box. I take you over there to go investigate Anne Bonny. So I'm like, all right, we'll see what happens when we get up there. Go up there, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to research, so I just kind of gave them what I did know about Anne Bonny. Somebody else heard the number 300 on a different spirit box. I don't know what it means. I write it down, research it the next day. We're there on November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy, November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300th anniversary of her pirate trial.
Wow.
So my shoulders shrugged and went, damn it. Now I got to learn about pirates. The problem with pirates for me is because it's pirate lore. So pirate lore, my master's degree in creative writing, this is where it comes in handy, where I've read more books on pirates than I ever wanted to in my entire life, trying to piece together a factual investigation so that way we can actually work with some facts. So everything we're about to discuss came from a minimum of 2 to 3 resources. So again, kept a heavy notebook on this research project. So worst case scenario, you're going to learn a lot of shit about pirates you didn't know before. And it is a hit or miss location. I will explain why we're there as well. I always explain why we're in a certain space. Which, by the way, the Pinckney Mansion site, why I kind of cut that short and we weren't getting much out of it, I do go to that space every night, like I was starting to explain to you, just to tell Eliza how many people I'm bringing. I change this up every year. I take out one space and add another one, just to kind of keep it fresh. And that was a space I was looking to retire this year, because I was getting some very nasty people on my groups that were, yo, what's up, Eliza? Let's do this kind of mentality. That's very ignorant to a prominent English woman from the 1700s.
Yep.
So I was getting disembodied messages from that spirit box, like, please just leave us alone, coming over 13 radio stations. I had the software to be able to analyze this stuff. So when I get disembodied voices, I give it a break. Just because, again, it's a good thing, and I want to know why it happened, but I know why it happened. So I give it a break, but I do stop there every single night, just to kind of give Eliza, like, I pet the wall, you know, hey, Eliza, I'm bringing 2 people with me tonight. We're going to be respectful. It's Monday night, nice and calm. Try to help us out and give us a little bit of factual data so we can actually see that you're here. I always give a little speech, but you guys get my point. Like, I take this very seriously.
Yeah, and you gotta be respectful to it too. Like, you can't just
It's not always provoking. Now, where we're going to next, we're going to be talking about a kick-ass female pirate. We can poke the bear a little bit there. I have a little phrase I use all the time: is know your ghost. This guy, he's obviously a respectable doctor, so I'm respectable. I talk about him, talk about how cool he was. You know, he's all about, you know, respect, and he shot his gun in the air. Like, that's a big deal. I'm telling his story. Now the next space, again, it's kind of crazy. It's pirates, and especially a female pirate to boot. But Eliza, I'm very respectful in the way I tell her story. I make sure everything I'm telling you is as factual as much as possible. Even our last space, like that's a weird space too, because we're going to be talking about a very shy, timid writer. So it takes a few minutes for him to like kind of warm up to us. Now when I have groups larger than yours, and that's another reason why I always like to try to push people into the next group, is because with 4 people or more, we do the Estes method. Are you familiar with that? You've probably seen it, didn't realize what was going on. It's where they blindfold you and put the noise canceling headphones on.
Yeah, and then you
No.
So what I do with that is if there's 4 or more people, I put 2 people on a bench, and I take the other 2 people and go tell them the history. And then we come back and blindfold them, noise canceling. And it's the people that have been using the spirit boxes all night, so they're already accustomed to it. We get much better responses that way. I'll tell you
I'd still be willing to do it.
the best Estes method we ever had was, what's today, Monday? So I had to cancel last night because of weather, so it would have been Saturday. And I only put them under for 10 minutes. I have to time it. It's the only thing I time in this whole thing that we do. We had 8 or 9 like distinctive, correct answers, and they had no idea what they were saying. I had 2 people going back and forth giving me answers. So again, best Estes session I've done yet. And again, I've only been doing that for, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 6 weeks. And I have to choose carefully because some nights people just don't understand how to use that thing, and I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. I'm not going to blindfold you and wait for you to try to give me some random Kia commercial. So again, that's where I say yes/no questions are okay to ask, because again, and I tell the people that. So I was like, if you hear yes/no, you don't know what questions we're asking, and you also
then
don't
it's
live.
different.
Right, it's way different. So again, we had a few yes/nos answers that were correct, that were like very direct. We had a lot of really cool things that happened here. The cool thing is you guys can actually go back and watch the video. I keep all your data on my website for an entire year, so if you want to go back and look to see what happened on your birthday or whatever, if I had a tour that night, it's up there. And again, I just rotate the months out. We're going to talk more about that at the end.
So what kind of doctor was he?
What's that?
What kind of doctor was he?
This doctor?
Uh-huh.
It would have been 1786, so I'm guessing
Like just
a general
regular?
practitioner.
Okay.
General
Sure.
practitioner. So,
Yeah.
I don't know that he actually had a focus.
Yeah, so I was wondering if he had like a...
The word kneecap shows up here. We get like the song Hands on My Knees that shows up here all the time. But again, people laugh at that. They're like, I just had the song Hands on My Knees. I'm like, well, we're going to go talk about a doctor that was shot in the kneecap. You're like, no shit. I'm like, that's why you're supposed to tell me all the funny stuff you hear. So again, it's all the little funny things. So let's go learn about pirates. Again, hopefully we stirred up enough over here to kind of get some freedom.
Right there.
That's not a shadow. What is that?
And then you got it up here now.
Oh, that's picking up. See how there's little bars? All the cement posts. But that one, that's got legs.
Yep.
Raise your right arm. Raise your right hand for us. You raise your right hand, we can see you. Hit that record. Oh, you got it. Okay. Might just be the bush, but when we had legs there.
Does it affect anything if I walk that way? Just to compare
Point out.
me and that?
No, not at all. Go for it. Let's see if it's going to be the same height. Keep walking forward a little bit. See? Roughly the same height. Perfect.
Stop.
See how he's nice and solid? And the other one's kind of glimmery.
Uh-huh.
If somebody is standing next to Trey over there, raise your right hand for us.
It's like he was going towards him.
He's almost like standing too close, where it's like starting to connect to him.
Yep. Come forward. And go over that way a bit. Other way. Stay there.
It might just be the bush, but I don't see another. See where the head's landing on that light in the distance?
That is a point.
That's why I usually do a, hey, raise your right hand. Can you raise your right hand for us? Yeah, the shoulders are definitely lined up at the top of the bush.
Yeah.
All right. So
Tried.
All right, so welcome to the Powder Magazine. This is what we're going to be discussing here, because this is what I call a familiar building. So let me explain. First off, these are not crosses on the building. Do you guys know what those are? Those are earthquake bolts.
Oh, wow.
So earthquake bolts are basically turnbuckles. So if we have another earthquake like what we did in 1886, like I told you before, you can turn the turnbuckles on either side of the building, and it's supposed to tighten it up so it doesn't incur any further damage from the earthquake. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. You guys have seen them all over town in like lion heads, and even the apartment building behind the Powder Magazine has earthquake bolts, and like you can see the peach squares underneath the window. So they actually run both ways. So they actually cross over top of each other. So if we were to get an earthquake and try to tighten them up, it would actually squeeze the building this way, so it almost like buckle in. It's weird.
Huh.
But again, it's an idea that doesn't work. Californians laugh at me all the time when I bring up earthquake bolts because they know they don't work. The reason I bring these ones up specifically is part of the reason why we're here. These are the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston ever put in, because this is the oldest government building in South Carolina. It was finished in 1713. So, I don't know if you're into architecture or not, but this building's architecture is fascinating. So it held gunpowder for 7 different wars. It's got 8 pillars on the outside of it, 35 inches thick. Those shingles actually have sand underneath them from the early 1700s. The point of that was that if it's going to get hit by a cannonball from the water, which is 2.5 blocks from here, it was much closer back then. Our outskirts are all man-made. If it gets hit and the gunpowder explodes, the sand is designed to go up in the air. It's not going to come out the walls because they're too thick. Go up and then fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. It's another idea that doesn't work. We had another Powder Magazine on Battery Street, which is why it's named that. And it did get hit because it was much closer to the water. The sand went up, but the building fell to the ground. So again, it just doesn't work. But this sand is still here. When they renovated this into a museum, they did some repairs to the roof and realized that sand is still intact. Sand does not disintegrate, and it's not hot enough here to turn it and compress it into glass.
Yeah.
So it's very fascinating to me, this whole building. But it's a museum now, so if you want to spend a quick $5 to go see some war uniforms of where it actually served in, it's really cool stuff. I'll also tell you about how many barrels of gunpowder and held and all that cool stuff. But anyway, this building was being constructed at the same time that Anne Bonny was coming here to start a new life, which is why we're here. This is a familiar. You've seen the shows where they use the teddy bear to attract a child first, right? Because it's something familiar. Right? Same principle. We don't have any buildings this old that she would actually recognize. So, let's kind of get into the story. This building took 10 years to build. Does that sound like our government? Small building, 10 years? No, not at all. The story begins right in the middle of its construction. So, 1708. The woman moves here from Ireland. I shouldn't say woman, she was a girl. She moves here with her father and his mistress. The mistress was her mother. Are you with me so far? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The 3 of them are running away from her dad's angry wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're getting the point. So, I usually slow down because there's a couple of twists in here. Female pirate, you get the point. They landed in Georgetown. It's just north of us, between us and Myrtle Beach. Dad bought a plantation up there. Mom died pretty quickly. That means he's sending young Anne down here to sell anything from the plantation to help keep things afloat. So, hence the familiar building. Back to Ireland for just a brief second. I want to give you the mentality of this young lady. They say she killed a servant when Anne was only 7, 8, 9 years old. Remember, it's pirate lore. Nothing is exact. With a knife to the belly. So again, we do get servant, knife, and belly all in the same evening on spirit boxes here. So kind of keep that in mind. Fast forward to 13, building's done. Go forward a little bit forward. 1715, pirates are coming through Charlestown. So Anne is stoked. Why? She's going to fall in love so she can earn her freedom, just like a man. It's a man's world at this time. So first guy she falls in love with, and I said first because there's a handful, and we're going to go through every one of them. James Bonny. You already see where this one's going because of her pirate name. So Dad didn't approve, he's a filthy pirate. They go to Jamaica, they get married, and Cormac is now Anne Bonny, the famous female pirate. So when she gets down there, she realizes that James Bonny is not Captain Jack Sparrow, like what she was hoping for. This guy turns out to be a privateer. He's a spy for the British. He's a coward. This is not who she wants. A few years go by and she falls in love again. This is John Rackham, aka Calico Jack. So Calico Jack is who they based your Johnny Depp character off of, just so you know who this guy is. So this is the guy she wants. This is what she's been wanting all along. He has his own crew. And wants to be part of it. You can't put a girl on a pirate crew. Do you know why?
Well, yeah, but I would assume just because
family friendly.
Yeah.
No, think family friendly. It's bad luck.
Oh, yeah.
Most people go straight into
Yeah.
she's trying to get raped. She's trying to get pillaged. But anyway, it's bad luck. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and look like my crew, then you can be part of it. You're going to be a female in my quarters, though. She's okay with this. Why? Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy apprentice back home in Ireland to hide her from his wife, so she gets it. She's a pirate. Let's go.
Uh-huh.
Let's put two and two together. She's a female in Jack's quarters. She's eventually going to get pregnant. You can't have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure out that she's a girl. And then they're going to get rid of Jack as captain. So he drops her off in Cuba before she starts the show. Says, go have the baby here. Come back later. We'll figure it out. She goes and has the baby. Returns without a child. So she comes back without that baby, and she's dressed like a girl. This makes Jack pretty angry. And while she was gone giving birth, he captured another pirate down below deck. Anne's gonna go flirting because that's who Anne is, to make him even more mad. We're on guy number 3, in case you watched that. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy, to be part of the pirate crew that the Calico Jack captured. Then we have 2 females dressed like males on the same ship. Her name is Mary Reed. She went by Mark Reed to become a pirate. Her and Mary become friends, possibly lovers. We're not going to really know for sure ever. Everybody wants to believe so in our day and age, but we're not going to really know. The British find out where they are. They send an entire fleet of ships to take down one pirate ship. The rumor is that Anne and Mary were the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with 1 bullet flintlocks. They obviously don't know how to use cannons yet because they haven't been pirates for very long. And obviously 2 ladies with flintlocks are not going to take on a fleet of British ships. So they get arrested. And as they're being arrested, she looks at Jack, her captain and beau, and says, Jack, I'm sorry to see you here, but if you would have fought like a man, you wouldn't have been hanged like a dog. So the word dog is very prominent here. It's come up on all different types of spirit boxes. The judge wants to see the 2 men that fought back so valiantly. He's already tried and hung Calico Jack and the drunk pirates that wouldn't fight. They're dead and gone. The 2 ladies go in front to reveal their gender, hoping to save themselves. He doesn't give a shit if they're female. They're still pirates. He's still going to hang them. We plead our bellies, was the last thing they shouted, because you cannot hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail, delays the hanging. Dad is still up here in South Carolina with all of his Irish money. He was an attorney back home. So he bails out Anne, brings her back home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, but guy number 4, because we're going to count married. We don't really know. She has 4 kids, dies at the age of 84. Very abrupt ending because we don't know much about her after her pirate career. As far as Mary Reed goes, she died a few months later in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. So, most books will tell you that it was something simple like fever. I'm going to say let's make it romantic and call it scurvy. Why the hell not? So, with this space, I left out 2 things on purpose because you obviously know how to ask questions normally by now. So 2 things I left out just to get you started. I left out the name of her parents. So that's the father and his mistress. I also left out the name of Calico Jack's ship on purpose. The city in Ireland where she's from has been coming up more and more. The color of her hair comes up. That's an easy one. She's an Irish woman with green eyes and red hair. So you kind of get the point. We do get the word red here a lot. We also get the song Girls Just Want to Have Fun. It comes up here all the time. So kind of be mindful of that. And again, it's usually that exact line and then it goes on to the next station. And that's a long phrase to get. When you get your recording back, you're going to see how fast the thing actually moves. So if you heard anything while I was
the thing is what you were talking about when you just said these days, those phrases were coming through with these days and kind of a confusion when maybe they were together. Because it was a repeat of what you said.
Interesting.
And kind of the reaction seemed like, these days? What do you mean these days? Like, that was maybe random, but like I said, it wasn't long after you had mentioned that. And then there was also the word strong came through.
Pretty vague.
And which was just in relationship to like strong women and taking over.
Yeah, and I get where you're going with it, but I would rather have the phrase strong woman.
Yeah.
That would make more sense to me.
I didn't get that. Just strong.
EMF here, I don't get excited around the corners of this lot because of the electrical poles, so if I do find anything above a 2.5, I'm usually pretty happy with it. But again, if I'm up in this area, it'll go up to 3 to 5 just based on the electrical poles and the parking meters, because the parking meters make this thing go off too. The electrical lines for those are underneath our sidewalks. So I have to pay attention, like I have to tell a person using this, like don't get excited, ghosts aren't following you around. With this space, it's nice and open. We do have like the signs and trees, which are easy to debunk, but the ivy can be difficult. That's why with the bush over here, I was kind of like, what do we have going on? But again, it's... I have the number 13. The building was finished in 1713.
There you go.
So it's light. I would need something else, but there's a few other things on here too that might be relevant to somebody else nearby. There's like 15 stories on this corner.
Yeah.
So I wait for 2 to 3 clues to show up before I really start like diving in. Like the the word editor showed up, and there's a newspaper editor relative to the Pinckneys, and I have the word relative and editor. So again, I want something a little bit more specific. His first name,
Yeah.
you know, his political office that he worked for, whatever, something. She don't know what a truck is. She doesn't know what a truck is. You got to use phrases she knows.
Well, that was pirate stickers.
Yeah, but you said all
She
the
wouldn't know stickers either, would she?
probably not. Emblems
Emblems.
all over your vehicle. Vehicle she would
I
understand.
have Jack's pirate flag in my classroom.
The original one, like the skull and
It's a
crossroads.
copy.
Oh, I meant that. I mean, I know it's a copy, but it's,
yeah,
but it's the original design.
It's
the cross,
5x3 original.
the cross swords, not the bones.
Yeah, that's the swords.
What was a favorite drink?
I have the word drunk on my list too.
Did you want to take Jack's shit for yourself?
So we got here.
Mm-hmm.
Started around like relative and live. Editor.
Can I join your crew?
That's a yes/no question, man.
Yep.
One of the spaces I took out deals with the stone tape theory, which
Mhm.
puts things on a cycle. Like it's,
Mm-hmm.
and we're still somewhat nearby it. It's just, to me, like it's not enough. I would need one of the names of the people that live there.
Yeah.
I don't. We left Pinckney Mansion with the word finish. Like I thought that was kind of a real-time moment too. We left when it said finish.
Yeah.
Because we'll get like goodbye or that's the end or something along those lines when we're leaving a space.
Yeah.
Or we're done here. You know, I've gotten
Yeah.
that one before.
Wow.
But anything else crazy on there? Just
No, just him.
Did you get a chance to listen to that?
No, he's not sharing any of
Not
that.
sharing. That's usually the hardest.
Can you,
part,
like,
guess.
Is it like you just gotta like ask him questions, or is it kind of you just gotta listen to
I usually
that, or
it's
is
whatever
it,
people are
what's-
comfortable with. Because everybody, you know, some people aren't like you. You would probably just listen and listen and listen, waiting for a term that's relevant to where we're at. He would be more apt to, hey, Ann, tell me about Jack's ship. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna be
Yeah.
a little bit more vocal and be direct. With me, like I'm usually like, all right, Ann, help us out.
Yeah.
Not like you don't know how to
Lead
do
us in the
this.
direction, like.
Right. You don't know. It's not like you didn't know I was coming. You know what I mean? I don't time
Sorry
this.
to unannounce to you.
Yeah. Anything coming out of there at all? Again, this is a hit or miss spot.
All random.
Yeah, this is completely random too, like nothing specific other than the word 13 relative to the powder magazine, but that could be anybody telling me that.
So, which husband did you love?
She only had two.
Hey, she
And we
gotta
don't
love
know the
one.
name of the last one.
She might give us the name.
She might. Can't prove it.
First or second? First or second husband was your favorite?
Who was your favorite lover? Just give us a name.
Ooh. Oh, he was the best.
We also have a female mixed in there. That's why
That's what
I
I'm
just
saying.
used the general phrase of lover. Come on, Ann, give us some answers. We're listening. I got nothing. I'm at zeros.
He scared her off, girl.
The word intention, but that doesn't give you. And Bonnie, if you're here, we want some kind of signal to show us that you're here. Something specific about you. I talk about you every night. You can help me out a little bit. You can show yourself. We can see you basically on this little mirror thing that we have going on here. We got the box with the red light. I can also see you come close. Whatever you want to tell us.
I want to know more about the pirate life. I said it was teach me. When I asked about pirate life.
What's Blackbeard's real name?
Teach.
There's Blackbeard history on this corner. His men used to go to the pirate house on the other side of that cemetery, and he would stay aboard their on the ships to keep watch. And
So
his men,
Blackbeard, are you coming through?
yeah, we've had a lot of Blackbeard stuff come through here.
I'd love to put your flag in the classroom, but it's a little bit too much for the kids.
What age group?
It's middle school.
6th grade.
They can
The
handle
staff,
that. They can
there's so
handle
much
that.
red tape that the administration
Really?
we're not really.
Oh,
But the
yeah.
skull
Not
and
big fan-
crosswords is
no.
okay? But
Well,
the stabbing of the hearts and
the
eyes?
the swords is just the swords, but you're actually stabbing a heart, then it's a little more deadly. That's even better if Teach is here. I'm a teacher.
Blackbeard, what was your first name? If it's you that's here, give us your first name. It's not like you haven't given us things here in the past. If you worked for Blackbeard, if you're part of his crew, tell us his first name. She got nothing.
Nada.
You got anything coming? 'Cause I think I'm going to call it. It's pretty light here. The word
Well,
teach
we
is...
gotta walk away if you're not gonna talk to us, Blackbeard.
Let's give you the answers. It was on the word list. That's weird because we had it on the word list.
Just as soon as we, I'm trying to listen like names. So they're not as common for me to do names. No, I didn't pay attention to the statue.
It's George Washington. You're in Washington.
Hey,
What?
as I walk by, I didn't pay attention to that statue.
Be mindful
And
of
as
the
I get to
torrent.
this point, United States of America.
Memorials in here. That stone right in the center of the brick over there, Trey, that's a memorial to Andrew Jackson's mother. Her name was Elizabeth. We also get things relative. There's a little stone over here onto the left in the grass. That's Marguerite Volk. I don't know enough about her, but we've had her name being spelled out on the Ouija board before with a missing letter. Marguerite is a long name to spell out on a Ouija board. So when we see the whole thing without the U, I'm like, hot damn, look at that. We've had her initials show up. I don't know enough about her. There's not really a whole lot of information about her. But again, we have gotten certain things like the name Jackson, mother, those kind of things will pop up in the same night. Just to kind of give you guys an idea. So I'm going to break out my EMF and we're going to spread out a little bit. So I'm going to go to some of the hot spots I know where I've gotten EMF. funny is my word list says the word Arab right now, and you had the word glory come up. Why does that? He asked about the obelisk, and he heard the word glory, but then I got the word Arab.
Huh.
Arab doesn't have anything to do with over here. His beard definitely doesn't look that much Arab. Normal beard. I like the word glory here. So whoever is here with us tonight, whether it be Henry, Miss Elizabeth Hutchinson, Marguerite, Beauregard, whoever's here, we'd like to see you, hear from you.
So that's the bench. But it's not.
No, it's the light.
Anything coming up?
Mm-mm. Nope.